Welcome into the FiredUP Network Sports Wrap and Monday Night Football preview together. Tonight's Monday night game, see it behind me there, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. So a big Monday night game. And it was a big week of football, even though you didn't have all the premier matchups you were expecting. College football, especially just because of a scheduling quirk, a lot of the top 25 was off. The key game, the pivotal game of the day started early. It was the big noon game on Fox. The Ohio State Buckeyes coming in wounded despite only having one loss. They just barely survived Nebraska at home. They went down to Happy Valley. This should have been the game that James Franklin took the Nittany Lions over the top. Instead, he continues in his career, and he's been at Penn State for a long time now. You got to think, he replaced Bill O'Brien. It was a while ago. He's only won one game against a team ranked in the top 5. And in the Big Ten, you play teams ranked in the top 5 every single year because you got Michigan and the Ohio State there. They lose again, a game that was extremely winnable.
Yeah.
And,
they had it.
What do you, is Penn State just at their place? This is at your third. Yeah. Or actually now you're going to be fourth because you're behind Oregon too.
And Penn State, it's interesting. Penn State needs to act like a big dog. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I don't want to talk. I'm not even talking about the game. I'm talking about months and months before the game, when the schedules came out. You know that you've actually accomplished this goal, and the only time you've accomplished this goal is a night game. The only time you've done this, beaten Ohio State when they're ranked inside the top 10, as a program in your history, has been an at-home night game with a whiteout. You had it in hand, and it wouldn't have taken much convincing to your TV, package deal there that's paying your athletic department, that's depending on you. Look, you are the cream of the crop in the conference. You've got to put on the big boy pants and go to the negotiating table and say, Fox, you don't get this on big noon kickoff. I'm sorry, but you don't. Because if it's a night game, that atmosphere is completely different. Will Howard is rattled. He was rattled as is, did not have a good first half. And beyond that, in the game itself, you have no excuse to have first and goal from inside the 5-yard line and not score a touchdown in 4 downs. No excuse. And especially making the exact mistake that we saw made in a Super Bowl. When you have a really good offensive line, you've moved it to the 6-inch line. You know what I mean? And then you got bounced back to the 3. You have the power to push. And I don't care if you don't I really don't care if you don't make it. It's so much better. It is so much better if you run the ball there with a fullback in an I formation and 2 tight ends and try to jam it up the middle. You've got a chance at a touchdown, or you're going to move it inside the 1. Either thing is going to happen, and they're going to have to drive 99 yards. You know what I mean? To me, to throw the ball there on 4th down was insane. You should have run it again. I don't care if I don't care if you fake it up the middle, then toss it out wide to get the edge. Just run the ball.
You don't have to look far because they just look at one of their NFL brethren in their home state, the Philadelphia Eagles. How many times have they said, okay, this is what we're running. Stop it. But here's James Franklin in his post-game press conference explaining his take on all the big losses, because he has a lot of them.
James, you can't control the outside, but as far as yourself and evaluating yourself in these big game performances, how do you do that? What significance do you put on a game like today?
Yeah, again, there's nobody that's looking in the mirror harder than I am. I will say this, and I've said it before, 99% of the programs across college football would die to do what we've been able to do in our time here, and that's all of us. But I also understand when you're at a place like Penn State, there's really, really high expectations. When you're at a place like Ohio State, there's really, really high expectations. I get it. I totally get it. So we've looked at all these things really hard. We'll continue to look at these things really hard. There's a lot of things that I had planned on saying when I came in here today, but they are not appropriate to say right now. So I'll hold them till another time.
Thing to say.
I'd imagine the things he was going to say that aren't appropriate is how we won this game. But, I mean, there's some truth in it, right? I mean, Penn State is in a better position than, I don't know about 99%, but 95% of college football. But they're there at the start every year. I mean, you're Penn State. You're almost, I mean, my God, you're guaranteed to win 9 games. You're going to go minimum 9-3. You're going to be in a big bowl game. You're going to sell out. You're going to have all the revenue in the world. You're the only program. I mean, Pitt's there, but you're only no bigger deal than Cincinnati is in Ohio. You're the only program in a massive state. Eventually, you got to beat Ohio State or Michigan.
To your point, Pitt was undefeated coming into last week. Now, I didn't say undefeated, but Pitt was undefeated, and the ticket prices for a Pitt game were selling below face value still.
Yeah, nobody cares.
When the biggest game of the weekend was in Happy Valley. If you just want to see the disparity and how much even people in Pennsylvania care about these two teams, there it is right there. Yeah, and not only that, like I think it's even Penn State's actually kill me here, but like Penn State is an easier job than Ohio State and Michigan because you don't have quite the same expectation. You are not expected to beat Ohio State and Michigan every year. You're expected to beat Ohio State and Michigan once every 10 years. Basically.
Yeah, occasionally.
To have a magic season where you beat both of them once every decade. That is essentially, or probably even 15 is really more the expectation. Right. And if you can't meet that, like, it's interesting you mentioned Bill O'Brien. Like, it's been that long. Look where Bill O'Brien is. He's at Boston College winning unexpected games almost every weekend, or staying in games he's not expected to almost every weekend. He's clearly going to have the BC Eagles in a bowl game this year.
Yeah. He's a good coach.
He's a good coach.
And you know what? James Franklin's a good coach. He could go to pick a program, some struggling program. I don't know. Let's say Arkansas. He could go to Arkansas, and Arkansas will be, because he was good at Vanderbilt. He could get Arkansas to 8-4, 9-3, probably in a year or two. And then that's it. I mean, I think that's just his level. And the question is that good enough for Penn State?
Right. Look at Manny Diaz at Duke, right? I mean, that to me, not too dissimilar. Like, he's really performing well at Duke. Like, didn't make it in Miami, you know what I mean? But like, really doing well at Duke. Like, to me, like, yeah, Franklin could do the same thing. Franklin in North Carolina, for instance, could win 9 games.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Mac Brown is a Hall of Famer, but he's past his prime. Franklin could win 9 games, but it's just at the same time, some of the decisions down the stretch, like not running the ball on that 4th down, they just keep piling up over the years, and eventually, like, it's going to lead to his downfall. Like, Penn State is not going to hang on for this. Is absolutely, and it's not lost, but this is their best chance at competing in it for a national title in the last, I would say, 30 years, and they've got to do it. They can't have games like this where situationally there are letdowns. Look, if you lose to Ohio State by 1 score and you didn't get two drives that were well inside the red zone, you didn't score on, then fine. But the fact that you left 14 points on the field and in one case, like, almost guaranteed 6 on the field, that's just irreprehensible. Like, you should have won that game. You look at the stat line, you basically did win that game, if not for those 2 drives, especially that last one.
And the other thing that's been a disturbing trend throughout the whole James Franklin regime, even with all the top 10 recruits they have, they got a 5-star quarterback in Drew Aller. I mean, they need some new offensive coaching, because the guy's a 5-star recruit. He was talked about as being an NFL first-round draft pick. He was 12 of 20 for 146 with an INT. I mean, there hasn't been any development there. He's the same guy he was when he stepped foot in Happy Valley.
I mean, he's gotten more mature, right? Like, so he has some of the games where, like, in the past, he went and thrown a couple picks to a lesser school, but like, he's not doing that. He's cleaned it up a little bit. His actual percentage has gone up a little bit, but it's not what we saw JJ McCarthy do at Michigan. Who was also a 5-star recruit from a similar background, very similar skill set makeup. McCarthy ascended as time went on in that coaching staff. Whereas you're right, like, Aller is not ascending. And I can't identify what Franklin's strengths are necessarily either. I mean, Is he a master motivator? Is he a defensive guy? I mean, they've almost always got like one of the best pass rushing defenses and run stopping defenses in the country. So like that front seven is it's still linebacker you in a way. It's just the term linebacker kind of morphed over the years, but they can still put together a heck of an edge rush. They can still stop the run. But you got to get the offense right. In modern college football, if you're not scoring 30 points a game minimum, you're not competing with a lot of these schools.
No, it's not going to work. Well, and let's take a look at the college football landscape just overall before we segue over to the NFL. Is it time to give some respect to the Indiana Hoosiers? They thumped Michigan State 47-10. They're 9-0 for the first time in program history. They're still outside of the top 10 despite being undefeated in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, like in the coaches poll, I think they're 8 now. So I think that's that's pretty good. But like, yeah, you're right. They're still outside the top 10 in the combined. And you know what I mean? They get Michigan next week. I think that's where they get put solidly in the top 10 across the board. I think that's when they, what I mean? And I know the BCS rankings are soon to follow as well. Like the official are just in a few weeks now, which is amazing that we're that far in the season. But so that I think they'll see a little jump there if they stay undefeated too, because they're going to be the only undefeated team from the Big Ten, which there's a lot to say there. Them and Oregon are going to be the only two at that point. Oregon's number 1. You got to think that like the other undefeated team from the same conference has beaten a lot of the same opponents, has to be ranked somewhere in the top 5, right? So like I think that's where they'll end up. If you look at Indiana, they're going. In my opinion, this game against Michigan is a huge opportunity because Michigan is reeling right now. They played the best football game they possibly could have against Oregon. I mean, really, I don't think Michigan can. Davis Warren can't play better, and if their issue is at quarterback, that's the best that team can play, and they got hammered. And Indiana is a steamroller right now. How many times have we seen this in sports? The undefeated, unexpected team is just a buzzsaw, an absolute buzzsaw, because they've got something that obviously the rest of the conference doesn't have. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Signetti. Maybe it's all those transfers from JMU that are just a different speed and a different, like a different dynamic at some of the skill positions. I tell you, the tight end I like a lot. Some of the receivers I like a lot. He moved in a lot of guys, especially on offense, and I think it shows. But it kind of reminds me of the Lions in the NFL. Like the way they're winning is just so dominant. I just don't see a chink in the armor here coming up. Like am I scared for them of Michigan? No. Ohio State is the only game, and they could lose that game and still be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose to a top tier team and it's one loss, and then they get to thump Purdue to end the season. Really, I think a lot of similarities this year between Indiana and Vanderbilt that people weren't paying attention to in the preseason. Because Vanderbilt bringing all those people from New Mexico, including their quarterback. I mean, you look at what Vanderbilt's doing. They beat Auburn for the first time in the history of the school. And they've been in the conference together for a long time. I mean,
and they handled Auburn.
Not like they don't play them.
And it was an absolute, wire to wire beatdown. And they were underdogs in the game. Because it's funny because Vegas still discounts Vanderbilt. Vegas doesn't discount Indiana. But they still, sorry about the camera there. They still discount Vanderbilt. They do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're not getting the respect. And just taking a look at the SEC before we move in to the NFL, Texas A&M, bye-bye.
See ya.
Think about international playoffs. You're done.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominated and obliterated Missouri, who also is out of it. South Carolina, the Gamecocks beat them down 44-20. Georgia struggled mightily before pulling away and getting a win in their game. I mean, this isn't the SEC of years past where everybody's an absolute buzzsaw. And Tennessee, they kind of struggled a little bit against Kentucky. They ended up winning 28-18.
Yeah.
But who do you think comes out of the SEC as the win?
I still think it's Georgia. Because Beck has been incredible. I wasn't super high on Beck coming into the year, but I don't think I've seen a better college quarterback when the chips are down in my lifetime. I mean, when the chips are down, he can think about some of the games that they've survived. They survived Kentucky with Beck having a stellar one drive that he really needed at the end of the game. They survived. I mean, they almost pulled the upset off against Alabama, if not for a miracle play by Ryan Williams. when you're down 4 scores coming into the second half against an elite, at least talented, maybe not schematically anymore, but certainly elite talent defense. Now you're down in this game going into the third quarter and you come back. This guy has the goods. He's got the moxie. He's got that unidentifiable thing with that quarterbacks sometimes have or don't have. There's no quitting him. He can throw 2 picks, 3 picks in the first half and still come in and torch you in the second half. His confidence is not wavering because of a few mistakes. And to me, he's got NFL written all over him. I said before the season that Georgia was my favorite to win it all. They still are, and Beck is the reason. Because I don't think you again, the stat that's dazzling just stands out that no one talks about as far as this conversation of national title is concerned, and really SEC title goes hand in hand with that, is that nobody else has a homegrown quarterback that's in the conversation. And
all transfers.
There's never been a first-year transfer that's won the SEC, and there's never been a first-year transfer that has won the national title in or outside the SEC. The only transfer quarterback's ever done it was a second-year transfer in Joe Burrow in LSU, who also won the SEC. So again, Nico's brand new. You know what I mean? I think eventually they beat Tennessee. Milroe has been there a few years, but Alabama's already out of the conversation. You know, one that's really sneaky to me, if Georgia can get at least one loss and you see some of the other brass in the SEC, you know, in their rivalry games down the stretch here drop a game, South Carolina is really interesting to me because they're a team that could go next week and beat Vanderbilt. I think they are capable of doing that. They're playing better and better. Sellers has been amazing. They have a weapon that no one else has at wide receiver. Raheem Sanders is getting better every week at running back. The offensive line's been great. They've been downright explosive. They just hung 44 points in that game for a reason.
Yeah. Well,
South Carolina only has 3 losses. If they could finish in a spot where they can at least compete for the SEC title, look out. Or even if they're in one of those coveted like 5, 6, 7, 8 spots in the playoff, I could see. I know they're not ranked right now, but in a world where they beat Vanderbilt and then I think they have a Georgia game late in the season, there's a huge opportunity there for South Carolina. And to me, they could be a dark horse. But other than that, Georgia all day, even though they struggled, Georgia, because they struggled and they've been resilient.
Yeah, they've been coming back. And you got to think in terms of the playoffs, SEC is getting 4, the Big Ten's getting 4, Big 12, because of the losses this week, just the champion. So just probably at this point, it looks like BYU. The ACC, just the champion, probably Miami. And then Boise, Notre Dame. And there you go.
It's Clemson. It's not Georgia. They play Clemson. South Carolina plays in a rivalry, in-state rivalry game, plays Clemson at the end of the year in a massive opportunity. I'll tell you what, if they beat Vanderbilt and then they beat Clemson to finish, how can you not put them in the playoffs? Honestly.
SEC is getting 4, so there's an opportunity there. Let's shift over to the National Football League. The Cowboys' death spiral continues. They lose 21-27 to the Falcons. Ezekiel Elliott suspended for disciplinary reasons. It's not looking good there. And the extremely huge contract to Sleep Number's favorite quarterback, Dak Prescott, looks worse every week. $60 million to him, man, that's not the answer.
No. But I still don't disagree with doing it. Because to find a quarterback like that is so.
You need a quarterback.
You need a quarterback. You're not guaranteed one in free agency or in the draft of any kind. You've already got one on staff, and he's not ancient. He's not retiring in the next 3 years. You might as well hold on to him. I don't really disagree. And that's the going market for quarterbacks. You know what I mean? So but at the same time, that's not the only answer. We said so many times going into the season, they won't be able to run the ball. They have not been able to run the ball, and it has been their death now. This Falcons game was a highly winnable game, in fact, for them. I don't think people saw it as that, but it absolutely was. The Falcons still have struggled to generate any kind of pass rush. They are not good against the run. The secondary has been woefully underwhelming. That's why they've been so close in a lot of games. Dak should have been able to light them up. He should have been able to lean on CeeDee Lamb and just light them up. I don't understand. I picked Dallas in this game. I picked Dallas on the money line in this game because I thought that this was a trap game basically for Atlanta. Kudos to the Falcons who just keep trending in the right direction while the Cowboys keep trending in the wrong direction.
Well, and they obviously decided, okay, we're going to take away CeeDee Lamb, see what you can do. 8 catches for 47 yards. They had him blanketed, and outside of him, there's not much there.
No,
There just isn't. And they let Rico Dowdell run the ball a little bit. They got 75 yards on the ground, but to win an NFL game, you need to get 350 yards of offense. 75 yards isn't going to hurt you.
Honestly, that's a good game from that Falcons defense to only allow 75 yards to the leading rusher on the other team. That's probably one of the best games they've had all year against the run.
Well, he's not good.
Right. I'm just saying, like that's probably one of the best games they've had all year against the run. So
the Bengals have their best game of the year against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's the end of the run for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
And in a not shocking to anybody except maybe Antonio Pierce, it's the end of the run for Luke Getsy, because you had to wonder, man, you guys are looking to rebuild your offense and you hire the guy who outside of Nate Hackett is easily the least regarded offensive coordinator in the league. Hey, what could possibly go wrong? Well, Luke Getsy's gone. They're going to do a reset.
Yeah.
I mean, the Raiders just need to lose out now.
Yeah,
They're tied for the worst record in the league at 2-7.
Like,
hey, none. They don't even need to ask Tom Brady, the new co-owner. None of the quarterbacks you have are good. You need a quarterback.
Yeah, no.
So
I'm pretty sure Adam Gase is available if you want to go down that well, because it falls in that same vein. You know what I mean? He hasn't been around for a while.
Yeah.
So,
Antonio Pierce will be looking elsewhere for employment at the end of this season.
I'm certain, but he'll get a job. He'll get a job as a DC somewhere.
Oh, as a defensive coach, sure.
I guarantee it. I mean, he's actually not been bad on that side of the ball. You know what I mean? And that's why he locked in that, interim. He's a good locker room guy too. He's kind of in that same vein of like the Dan Quinn, Dan Campbell.
Yeah, good motivator.
Yeah. Big time motivator, like real good in the locker room. Yeah. Let's talk about the Bengals though, on the other side of that. Bengals with a bit of an opportunity here. I mean, they get the Ravens, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Cowboys, and then the Titans. So they've got some like signature type games that, you beat the Ravens, who you were very competitive with in the last game. You got, and this one you'll have to win in Baltimore because you lost the one in Cincinnati, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. The Chargers are getting better and better and are probably going to finish pretty good this year. And you have an opportunity to go against them the next week, and you're better than them. So that's great. The Steelers, who are going to come in with a great record, but still probably be underdogs to you if you win those other couple games.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll be a quality win. You get to crush the Cowboys after that. You got to get the thing rolling though. And really, ultimately, you've got to start playing better on the O-line consistently. I need to see them put together 2-3 games in a row of good production, good protection. I want to see them run the ball at least 120 yards and Burrow under 2 sacks for 3 straight games. And then I'll believe. I'm not there yet.
They need to go 6-2 really the rest of the way, I think, to get a playoff spot.
Yeah.
They're going to have
and they're
to
capable.
Get to 10-7.
They're capable, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Let's talk about the Chargers. They went and deflated the balloon that Jameis Winston had inflated last week. Here's Jim Harbaugh after the game talking about the win.
Same in the second half. All of a sudden, he's 34 yards. Yeah, I mean, just that resilience. I mean, this Brown defense. I mean, they stop plays. I mean, they stop them cold. I mean, you saw this, the sacks. Tackles for loss. I mean, they're just really good at it. And unless you don't get discouraged, you don't keep a good self-worth of yourself, and 3, 2, 1, let it go. Next play's coming. And I thought our guys did a really good job of that. Not getting emotionally hijacked. When something didn't go right, and then just kept with it.
He's got it moving in the right direction. And
he's so
like I said, there's guys who are just good coaches, and he's one of them, because nobody was picking the Chargers to be all that good, and they're sitting at 5-3 now and in a really good position.
Well, there was one guy that thought they'd be that good.
Well, you did. Yeah.
And here's why. Here's what I mean. The Browns are a really good run defense. He's got Dobbins going for 6 yards a carry. He's got a good young offensive line. And again, the point that I keep trying to make about Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers is he knows the future. Okay. And that to me is so. Look at who the leading receiver was in that game. Quentin Johnson, 4 catches, 118 yards. Now, do you remember when they crossed paths? What Quentin Johnson did to that Michigan defense at TCU? He's really a top 5 in the country secondary, and Johnson torched him. So what does he do? I'm going to coach
I'll
that
take
guy.
this guy. Yeah.
I like that guy. So he becomes a feature of the offense. Lad McConkey, a guy he's familiar with, recruited against, tried to get him against Georgia, visited him, his family in high school. He knows Lad. You know what I mean? And this is my point. Like, he knows the hidden talent that the other coaches didn't see the last 5 years, and he's exploiting it. Dobbins, a guy that beat his head in when he was at Ohio State.
The Ohio State, yeah.
He lost Dobbins 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, this
And
is
got him for nothing. How much different would the Cowboys look with him coming off that Achilles injury from last year?
Look at all the running backs that were available. There's no excuse for the situation the Cowboys are in. Swift was gettable this offseason. Look how good he's doing. Barkley, it went in your division. You know what I mean? Like, the Giants were willing to trade him in your division, and you did not pick up the phone. Come on. That makes no sense.
You got some big opportunities coming up for the Chargers. They get Tennessee, so there's a win.
Yeah.
You look at the end, they get New England and the Raiders. So you're already pretty much locked in at 8 wins. The 2 big games coming up, November 17th against the Bengals, and Monday night, Thanksgiving week, the Ravens. Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. This time it's personal on ABC. So that's going to be a big game. That'll
be a big game.
Really set the stage.
And like both of us said before the season, look out for the Chargers next year. The Chargers next year, that's going to be a fight. Them and the Chiefs are going to decide the division. The Broncos are probably still a year away as of next year, but it's the Chargers.
As evident by yesterday.
Yeah. I think, when we talk about the Broncos, they had a bit of he looked like a rookie quarterback moment there.
Yeah. Taking the Broncos to cover, not a good pick for me. Now, let's roll through here. Let's go to Monday Night Football. Andy Reid talking in advance as the Chiefs, the only team undefeated, take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I look forward to the challenge of playing Tampa Bay. We know they're a good football team, very well coached. I mean, Todd does a heck of a job with that crew. Excuse me. Along with his coordinators, they're all top-notch guys, and both offensively, defensively, and special teams, they're doing well. So we look forward to that, again, that challenge of prepping ourselves this week to get ready to play them. So
not exactly riveting stuff from Andy Reid, but that's kind of what you get. He also talked about working DeAndre Hopkins into the game more.
You've gotten to be around DeAndre for a little bit longer now. He was pretty late getting here last week. What have you kind of learned about him in meetings and what you saw from him last week?
DeAndre, he's really handled things the right way. Been very diligent on studying and asking questions and staying late, coming early, the whole deal there. So his role will continue to increase this week. I mean, we're comfortable with that, and I think he's comfortable with it.
And he did get on the field after only being here for a couple days. Should be a big contributor. The Chiefs did lose another piece during the week, rookie tight end from TCU, Jared Wiley, who we had talked about really all season as being a guy who they could probably integrate in more. Really good hands guy, didn't drop a pass in his career at TCU. Blew his ACL out, non-contact injury in practice, so out for the year. So they just keep dropping pieces.
Especially, I think, like, you've seen the tight ends play a lot this year in Kansas City. It's almost a lot of these formations almost look like a callback to the Alex Smith days. You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of similar formations. You know what I mean? I'm expecting Kendrick Bowe out there, wide receiver. Like, so those tight ends, they've been. Think of how good they've done with Kelsey, Fant, and now Wiley. But he'll be all right long term. And obviously, getting Hopkins,
he'll be fine next year.
Yeah, it'll be fine next year. And like getting Hopkins around a week before is fantastic, because now you can kind of open up the offense and go the 2 or 3 wide receiver sets a little more often, and kind of ignore those 2 and 3 tight end looks. That said, about the game specifically, the Bucs actually match up really well. I think really well with the Chiefs. As far as I watched them play the Lions and kind of get boat race, but this Chiefs team isn't exactly built like the Lions. So I think they set up really well. Especially, it looks like Vita Vea is kind of rounding into almost full health now, which honestly, like, Chris Jones or Vita Vea, I don't know which one you'd rather have. Like Vita is incredible and a bit of a different skill set than Jones too. Vita is a run stopper and a pass rusher, which is you just don't get that. And also one of those, he's in the run stopping way, he's a 340-pound monster, right? So he's one of those guys that's incredibly unique and way too athletic for as big as he is. So yeah, I think Tampa Bay, I think they're going to win this one. The Chiefs have to lose at some point. They have to. They're not good enough to go undefeated. I've seen undefeated teams. This isn't one of them. They have.
I just think the Buccaneers are hurting though, because right now they're missing both of their starting wide receivers, and that's led to an increase in interceptions, which Baker Mayfield brought up.
Are the interceptions starting to eat at you a little bit over these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it pisses me off. I don't want to turn the ball over. To me, that's shooting our whole team in the foot. That's not what I want to do. So yeah, it makes me angry. Obviously, it's something that I can directly fix, and that's what I'm going to do.
So he's got to start doing that tonight. And Alex, like you said, it looks more like an Alex Smith team now. Yeah. Mahomes, as we're winding down here, he brought that up, that playing, he didn't want to buy into it, but they're playing a bit more conservatively.
I think I don't want to say more conservative, but definitely once you get a lead, you know that defense is going to get stopped. So we want to go in and score as many points as possible. I'm not going to act like we don't want to score, but in certain situations where we might have pressed the issue and try to force something to make something happen, knowing that our defense can get stops and that we can punt and we can get the ball back in a better type of position on the field, it speaks to the entire team, and I think that's something that I've kind of evolved throughout my career.
For sure.
And you're seeing it. It does look much more like the Alex Smith teams, because this isn't how they wanted to play. They wanted to go Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. Let's get back to airing it out. And that's been just deflated between the injuries, and now even Juju Smith-Schuster going to be out again this week with the hamstring. Mm-hmm. You're just kind of having to cobble it together and play that complementary football that the Chiefs did with Alex Smith.
Yeah, this is the NFL sometimes, and the fact that they're undefeated through all this is really what makes Andy Reid and Mahomes Hall of Famers, and probably Spagnuolo too. You know what I mean? So that we've seen this with the Patriots, for so long. The Chiefs are essentially just the new Patriots. We've already seen this. The defense, by the way, is going. It's going to set Mahomes up for another 3 Super Bowls once they get let's say Rashee and Worthy fully working together. I guarantee it. Here's why. This is the formula that Peyton Manning used to become a Hall of Famer. Okay. You get a good defense specifically at rushing the passer, and then you get teams down early. You win about 90% of your games when you do that, because they have to throw the ball and they become one-dimensional. And if you have Mathis and Freeney, or Dana and Uche, or whoever, and Chris Jones in the middle, that is the recipe for success. It's the old saying that the quarterback can't make throws laying on his back. 100%. Look, it was the death knell eventually to Tom Brady. The 2 Super Bowls he lost because of the NASCAR package and the Giants' ability to rush the passer. You know what I mean? And so, but my point about the Chiefs is, long term, this is the Spags better stay. They got to back the Brinks truck. He's got that head coaching experience that would concern me a little bit.
But they're not hiring older coaches,
especially defensive coaches, right? So I think that works in their favor. So if they can keep Spags, if they can stop him from retiring, if Andy Reid cannot retire, you get those two together and he can scheme up that defense, stay young in the secondary, and pay the front 7 if you need to, pay the offensive line and pay Mahomes. That is the formula. I think he's going to break Brady's record. I really do.
Well, I think that's a good point to wrap it up here, as we're on the FiredUP Network. You can watch us on sports.tv, at Carbon TV, and you can download that free True TV Plus app. We're going to split on Monday night. I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I think they lose their first game at Buffalo coming up on November 17th. But it's definitely going to be another close one. They're not blowing anybody out anytime soon. And Alex, you're taking the Buccaneers in the upset?
Yeah, I'll take the Buccaneers in the upset. Same thing. One thing, if you wanted to make a wager, Cade Otton over under 4.5 receptions is a steal over all day.
Oh, yeah, without a wide receiver, sure.
He's going to get 12 targets in this game. I guarantee it. So he's probably going to catch 8 balls.
Yeah, no, that's a good line to grab.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the
You want a
Chiefs,
nice little parlay
look
booster?
at
There you
Noah.
have
If you can see Noah Gray, I think he's going to catch a few. I think Noah Gray gets 3 or 4 receptions
Yeah.
because he's going to be the outlet when Kelsey gets taken away. With that, we'll wrap it up here. We'll be back with more NFL coverage and college football coverage throughout the week on Fired Up Network. And tune in to Wrestling Spotlight as well. You can still hear from Danny Deals from the NWA coming up on Wrestling Spotlight. We'll see you back here later on this week. Stay tuned for more sports and entertainment. Have a good day.